Welcome to the Daily Exchange, guys. We're here with Colin LeMahieu, the man behind Nano. We're talking all about block lattice structures and exactly how it works. We'll see you guys in a sec. All right, guys, we're back. We're here with Colin LeMahieu, my man. Welcome to the Daily Exchange. How's it going?
Good. How are you guys?
You are the founder behind Nano, which is an ultra-fast cryptocurrency. It's incredible. You obviously previously came from Dell, AMD, Qualcomm, launching it in 2017 and going full-time then. Maybe do you want to start by giving us a bit of a rundown of what is Nano?
Well, Nano's goal is to be the most efficient form of currency possible. We were trying to look at what existed in the marketplace when I started the project and make technical improvements, usability improvements, and make it a seamless way to integrate currency into everyone's lives.
Okay, and it's incredibly fast. There is up to half a second block time. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly. So we don't put things in blocks per se, but the transactions are confirmed, fully confirmed in under half a second, typically.
Okay, and the second thing is it's feeless, which is, I'm trying to understand this. Tell us, how does that work?
Well, the technicals on how it works is we have an internal throttling mechanism. It's a queuing-based system. It's pretty typical in computer science to prioritize what comes first, what comes second, make sure people aren't starved off the network. Operating systems do this. Lots of computer programs do this. So we just have to apply the same principles to cryptocurrency. So we have a little tiny proof of work, kind of like Hashcash, the original email anti-spam mechanism. And when people want to publish transactions, they have to spend a little bit of time computing this on their own computer, and then they can publish it out to the network. And that's how we throttle people.
Incredible. All right, and now we've got, so Nano runs on a block lattice structure. We've got a little video here. We'll just play for you guys to check this out, and we'll talk with Colin in just a sec.
Introducing Nano. Nano utilizes an innovative technology called the block lattice, which works without a mining process, resulting in transactions of any size being processed instantly with no fees. There's no limit to how many transactions can occur simultaneously. Nano is the digital currency designed to function on a global scale.
Tell us about this block lattice structure, Colin. How does this work in your words?
Yeah, so the point of the block lattice was to make as much of the ledger asynchronous as possible. And the idea that I had on this was to separate it out by the account owners. So you can only add accounts into this chain for your or into this chain for your own account. And that way you can make sure that there's no contention. So what I envisioned from a computer science standpoint was you have all these people in the world trying to add their transactions to the front block, kind of like a Bitcoin blockchain. And that's a lot of contention. And you can eliminate contention in computer science by divide and conquer. So the natural divide and conquer for an accounting-based system is to divide it up by the accounts. So that's exactly what I did.
Brilliant. And how would you describe the consensus protocol? There is a send transaction and a receive transaction. Can you talk us through how that works?
Yeah. So that type of thing is probably what I would call a message passing structure. Kind of in computer science also, there's a way to share data with a shared data structure. And then the other way to do that is with message passing. So it's analogous to a credit and debit system. You know, we're going to debit my account a little bit when I want to send something to someone else. And then later when they want to pick that up, they need to credit it to their own account. So that's just the transaction model. The consensus mechanism itself, we actually call open representative voting. And it's a voting-based consensus model where the voting weight is determined by the users that hold a balance. They pick a representative that they want to do that they want to use, somebody that has a good connection to hardware, and they vote to manage conflicts inside the network on your behalf while you're not online.
So is it, you said it's a little bit that the user has to run a small proof of work calculation, and then this other consensus mechanism is that analogous? Where would you say is it similar in any other coin out there, or is this something unique to Nano?
That's a good question. I don't know if anyone else is using a proof of work as an anti-spam mechanism inside of a cryptocurrency. I'm sure there's someone, but it's not an entirely novel idea. Like I said, Hashcash has had a proof of work throttling mechanism before, and Hashcash, that structure was used to do the proof of work in all the proof of work coins. So the concept's out there. We just apply it in a little bit different way. Rather than having everyone competing to generate the proof of work, you generate for your own transaction. So it's your cost to the network and your time invested into the network in order to publish your transaction.
How decentralized is Nano? Obviously there's the trilemma with security and scaling, and where would you did you place Nano?
Yeah, actually, I think when you look at the breakdown of where the voting weight lies in Nano, we've made an incredible progress over this year. Last year, about this time, the foundation representatives had a large amount of voting weight, and the community has put together a big effort in order to move that off of foundation reps and onto people inside the community. So people that participate in the community, a couple of our exchanges have representatives. A couple of the payment providers that we're working with are also putting them up, and they've been very successful also. So it's pretty much anyone that has a business that runs on top of Nano, they have a reason to want to make sure that the network is secure and decentralized. So, and it doesn't cost much to run one, so they run a representative.
Makes sense. And so with the system itself, how are there nodes, or people can, you said with these representatives, do they get paid fees, or how does that sort of work?
You run a node, you set it up, and then what you do is you put an account on your node. It doesn't have to have a balance, but you set it up, you run it, you have the account, and then you ask people to assign yourself as their representative. You can tell them, I work at this company, we love cryptocurrency for this, we want Nano to be in our business, or we just, we're a university, we want to support Nano. This is our representative address, and people can choose to move the representative weight over there. Actually, a lot of people in the community have started making tools in order to track uptime of these representatives, to track their accuracy, and also to kind of level out the voting weight. So they're making lists of this right now, how much voting weight people have, how to decentralize yourself, and they're going to integrate these into wallets to kind of maintain that. But the overall goal is that no one has like a significant amount of voting power over it. And when you compare our graph to a lot of other graphs, surprisingly, we are very, very similar to a lot of other well-known cryptocurrencies out there. When you take into consideration mining pools and things like country, geographic, political areas, we actually have a pretty big diversity on where our representatives are, which is great to see.
In terms of, I guess, where some other coins are quite different, Nano was very different in terms of its launch, and it didn't have a private sale or an ICO. Can you tell us about this? There's quite an ingenious mechanism that you used to launch the coin.
Yeah, we're really proud of that, actually. So we used a CAPTCHA faucet in order to distribute all the coins. So we set up a rate that we wanted it distributed on. We had a website where people would just simply solve Google CAPTCHAs, and every hour they would get a certain amount of Nano depending on how many they solved. So our goal with this whole thing was to get the widest spread of Nano possible, because when you're putting out a currency, it doesn't help. It's very, very detrimental to have a small group of holders. The economy is completely stagnant. and you need wide dispersion. So this seemed like a very good way and an equal way to kind of push it out. If we did an ICO, you'd have a smaller group of people that, they're people that have idle capital to kind of invest in this. So it's kind of more, if you have a lot of money, then you can participate. We didn't really want to be in that area. Mining has something similar, not quite to the extent that ICOs do, where you have to invest in a lot of mining hardware. Have to have enough money to at least buy that. The people that were getting Nano were people that really had never used cryptocurrency before, quite frankly. There's a lot of people in Indonesia, a lot of people in Venezuela, Brazil, some in India. So we had a lot of countries that are typically overlooked in cryptocurrency, and Nano was their first experience in it, which is pretty cool.
And now with some of the being a feeless cryptocurrency, what are some of the challenges you face with that?
I mean, the only real challenge we have, and I think that we have that problem pretty well in hand, is how do we manage the QoS of transactions on the network. So there needs to be some way to throttle what's being sent to the network, but that doesn't always have to be fees. There's lots of ways to throttle networks. I mean, they do it with operating systems, they do it with networking, with telephony. So the way that we throttle it is by, again, the proof of work difficulty. So we have a certain floor where you have to at least do this difficulty in order for your transaction to be accepted. And then above that, what we do is prioritize higher difficulty transactions to be processed first. And that simple scheme means that if your transaction isn't being processed, you can just adjust the difficulty a little bit, or more realistically, the software in your computer can adjust the difficulty up a little bit higher. So then all of a sudden you get pushed through. So what you have is a situation where, if somebody wanted to attack it, they're going to have to continuously generate transactions in order to do it. Whereas everyone else in the network just has to make one proof of work difficulty that's higher than this person that trying to saturate the network, and their transaction will go through. And we've done tests on it. It's looking really good in our beta and in our live. We'll have a few more tweaks that we're going to be putting into this, but that's how we ensure, me with my phone who does 2 transactions a day, I can be sure that mine's going to go through because I can calculate a really high difficulty, whereas somebody trying to attack the network has to do this continuously over and over, and they're not making any money off of it.
With the I guess the trajectory of currency today, there is a lot of talk in the market right now about central banks creating digital currencies, China and things like that creating ones. Bank of England governor currently talking about this as well. I guess given that context as well, where do you sort of see Nano going? What's sort of the vision from here, given that sort of currency context?
One thing that Nano has over those is the fact that Nano doesn't have any sort of monetary policy implications tied with it. So these guys issuing their proposed currencies, I mean, unless they're going to completely go away with their monetary policy model, which I find very unlikely, they're very, very tied to these things. There's still going to be inflation and fluctuation that's going to be injected into it, and it's going to be an inflation decided by that one country. And one of the problems we're trying to solve with Nano was to eliminate this type of contention. We want it to be a global currency, and we want it to be a global currency not just for ourselves, but because having multiple currencies does not serve the user. If I travel, you travel, when you have to convert money between places, it's a pain. You lose things in fees. It's just inconvenient. You don't want to have to do it. The user is served best by having a single currency. So whether or not they'll succeed on that, I just don't think that their goals are going to be lined up with it. As far as what I've heard from these guys is they're trying to do reserved backed stable coins, and I don't think that offers much of an advantage over their reserved back electronic banking system. It doesn't, you don't have the actual value. Like when you have a cryptocurrency, when you have Bitcoins or when you have nanos or whatever, when I send it to you and the confirmation has gone through, you have it in your possession. It is yours. And that's the fundamental thing that cryptocurrency has changed. These reserve backed coins that are run by banks, backed by gold, backed by dollars, you don't have the dollars in your hand. You have an IOU. And that's no different than electronic banking today. So I think they're kind of jumping on the bandwagon of the cryptocurrency name, but I don't think, especially a government-backed reserved stablecoin, offers a compelling advantage. So I don't know. I still think Nano has a very big place to play in this over those guys.
Is it possible to release, I guess, a stable coin on Nano and potentially, some of these technology companies or banks or even governments to use Nano as the underlying infrastructure with a stable coin on top?
Yeah, I mean, they can. They'll, I mean, essentially like a private. Do you mean like a private access, a private blockchain, or a fork of it in a private chain? I mean, you could. It all depends on what your company has to do it. You can make one, you can issue it. I wouldn't do that personally because a lot of banking and finance comes down to trust, and I do use banks that I mostly trust at this time, or at least they're reasonably safe. I think they can be better. I probably wouldn't put my money into a stablecoin startup because I don't know where their money is going to be. It's all tied to whether or not they can keep it secure in their banks, whether they're going to be compliant long term, whether the government that is around the company and the building in that area wants to let them continue operating business. And they really can shut them down at any time unless there's some sort of very, very strong legal guarantees. So would I pick that over my existing electronic banking system? I don't think so. Would I pick a cryptocurrency where you actually transfer value? That one I would, because it is a different fundamental value proposition.
And I guess right now with Nano, you focus very much on a single network layer. Are there any plans for a second layer on top of Nano?
Well, I mean, I think anybody that uses Nano would be considered a second layer. But as far as like a payment processing, like a Lightning Network style thing, we're trying to make the base layer satisfy all of these things. So yeah, I'm sure, and people already do make payment systems on top of this, but that's probably not something that we're going to work on right now. We're working on just the base protocol, making it fast as possible, making it as efficient as possible. There's still a lot of technology things that we can make some improvements on in this. So it'll be
private transactions. Are you guys considering going down that path as well?
Yeah, I mean that one's very, very interesting to me. Everyone knows that we haven't made a move on that right now, and we haven't done a lot of research on it, but that's just because it's a matter of prioritization and timing. And also, I haven't seen anything come across my desk that is good. It's like a legitimate chance at privacy and also doesn't impact performance greatly. Mm-hmm. So I think it needs a little bit more work right now, but I am very, very excited about the possibility of that. I think that's the final thing that cryptocurrency needs to really, really, really light it off. So we'll see. I'm going to keep looking for it.
What would you call the Nano privacy? Would you Nano private or something? Do you have ideas on what you might call it?
Yeah, I don't know. That's like a branding exercise. It's like Nano Stealth, Nano Ninja. No, we already have Nano Ninja.
I like that.
Yeah, it's a good one. You want it to be like relatable enough to people so that they don't think it's weird. I know in our branding a lot, we've stayed away from the word cryptocurrency because it has a kind of negative connotation outside of the cryptocurrency bubble. We like to call it digital money, because that one I think resonates with a lot of people more. So if you're trying to introduce a stealth type of thing or privacy type of thing. You have to use words that people don't have negative connotations with, and people generally think of stealth as negative. So yeah, that one's going to be hard.
So let's talk about some of the updates right now, Colin, you guys have been working on. The most recent one in February, the Dolphin update, reducing the time of transactions from 5 to 10 seconds down to a half a second or even to 2 seconds. Pretty incredible stuff. Tell us, what can you tell us a bit about that update? Talk us through what was involved and where is it sort of heading?
Yeah, that one was a lot of, we got a lot of measurements out of improved tooling at the time. So before that, we hadn't done long-term trending and long-term analysis of how long our transactions were taking. It was kind of just by like word of mouth and impressions. So the community made a bunch of tooling on it to kind of track our transaction time. Based on that, I was able to find some inefficiencies in our rebroadcasting, and that's all it really took was to find that issue. So the transactions just weren't being pushed out to the network fast enough. It was like going here, sitting for a while, and then going here and sitting for a while. With the update, it immediately just relayed it out to the network as fast as possible, and that's what we get. And that's the times that I was anticipating with this. It's the internet latency to the representatives to get the votes and then back, and that's how fast transactions confirm.
Now, you also had the Solidus update in June. Tell us about that.
Yeah, Solidus was a really big update. So we added two really big features in that. The one that didn't get as much recognition, but I think is probably the more significant update is the confirmation height on each one of the blocks. So that's an easier way for anybody interfacing with the node to generate the consensus, or not to generate consensus, to make sure a block has been confirmed. So originally the node was designed to do all of this tracking internally, but it didn't externalize it very well. And it would also require a little bit of extra network traffic for vote collecting. Now with the confirmation height, we greatly reduced the amount of traffic we have to send out for votes, and it made it a lot easier for people to implement. So that one was really a really good improvement. And then the next one was kind of what I already talked about with the prioritization of transactions based on difficulty. So before this, we just put all the transactions out there and then they all kind of work their way through slowly. But if you had a lot of transactions going through, people wouldn't be working on the same transactions at once. So with Solidus, we made the rule where the transactions with the highest priority get processed first, and that improved our throughput even more, especially in high load situations. And we've been really happy with it.
Okay, and I noticed in your most recent London meetup, which looked fantastic, by the way, there was a big focus on point of sale payments. Tell us about that. Are you looking to sort of, I guess, dethrone Visa or Square? Tell us about what's sort of happening there.
I mean, that's the goal. Yeah, absolutely. It's a long road through there, but yeah, processing payments is exactly what we're trying to do here. And the biggest advantage that we have to kind of erode that business model of, a payment processor versus using the currency natively is our speed and is our throughput on it. So Visa systems like credit cards, it's still a system of credit. It's all going back to you have dollars or gold in a bank somewhere. And if you have to move it, if I send money to Australia, right now, electronic banking might tell you that happens within a day, might tell you that it happens within an hour, but in the end, eventually currency has to move on a plane from one country to another. There's nothing to get around the fact that you need to move physical assets at some point. So with cryptocurrency, that's kind of changed. And if you don't need these people, these banks, these Visa processing networks in order to make sure that credit's in place, because you can send the value immediately through Nano, we can work to replace them as payment processors. So we'll see. What our strategy on that right now is working with other people that are doing payment processing. We're working with a lot of payment processors, especially web ones, to integrate Nano into their platform, so people can, go to websites, pay just like with all other cryptocurrencies with Nano. And then the really cool ones are the hardware point of sales that are kind of coming out. So yeah, at London Meetup, Capture was there, and that was one of our first kind of cooperative things with them. And they made a very impressive point of sale system that we did a live demo on. So it was really fun to see.
And what are some of the other things, talking about the Nano Foundation, that you guys are doing to drive adoption of Nano?
Yeah, so we're focused on building tools that businesses need to connect cryptocurrency, and we're doing that because what we found out very quickly, trying to go door to door to get people to accept cryptocurrency was the limiters on this were not from an ideological perspective. A lot of time there are a lot of people that, if I don't have to pay 2 to 5% for my Visa card transactions, they'll definitely take that doubles their profit margin oftentimes. It was a matter of logistics. The tools weren't there to do it. The usability wasn't there to do it. So we start off with Nano. It's incredibly easy. There's no fees, so there's no fees to calculate. If you send one Nano, they get one Nano. It's very, very intuitive from that standpoint. And they need back-end things. They need point of sales. They need all this stuff. They need it to happen quickly. They need to be able to get their money out into fiat in order to pay bills. So all those parts need to be there. And that's what we're working on currently. So last year we were working on the protocol itself. This year we're doing integrations into these point of sale systems, into the payment processors.
And I noticed that you're hiring for a software engineer for another payments project related to cryptocurrency. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, so I mean that's what I would call this other project that we have that I have with a couple other people is what I would consider a second layer. So it's something that uses Nano, and it's a little payment processing device. It's a hardware module that does cryptographic signing, and it's designed to be able to be put into things in order to accept cryptocurrency payments. So the first thing that we made was a little handheld point of sale module that you can bring to a table and accept cryptocurrency in. That's one way to use that module. The other demo that we had in London was a vending machine, a coffee vending machine, or any vending machine that wants to accept cryptocurrency payments. So we have a little adapter that plugs into the standard vending machine cable specification, the wire specification behind it, and we can retrofit these vending machines to accept cryptocurrency payments, which has a lot of really cool potential. You put it into parking machines, charging machines, anything you want, and it'll accept it.
Okay. What's coming up next for Nano, Colin? Tell us what's next for the protocol.
Yeah, so in the next release, we're doing all the normal, really nerdy, cool tech updates on this that will make it, more efficient, easier to do. We have some pretty cool stuff that I've been working on related to our proof of work algorithm. So we're going to make an improvement on that. So that'll be interesting to keep an eye on. And
any sort of new features, Colin, as well, that you're focused on?
So this release is going to be mostly changing it's going to be our improvements to the protocol, and then working on that proof of work thing. It's going to be a smaller update, but the big ones that we have coming down the road is going to be redoing our network overlay. So right now, even though it's sending out transactions really, really fast, it can be faster and it can be more efficient. So we're going to do that. You're not going to see 15 seconds to 2 seconds anymore, or it's going to be a smaller increase, but it's going to save bandwidth, and saving bandwidth means we can do a higher throughput. So it'll be worth it.
Now, for everyone who's watching, and if they want to join the Nano community, where's the best place they should go?
Nano.org right now, and we have chat.nano.org, and pretty soon we're going to have a website refresh, and we'll have a posting community forum there that people can talk on related to Nano. So that's the best way to find it. Also Twitter, we have @Nano, and we put out all our updates there.
Brilliant stuff. Now, lastly, this is not financial advice, Colin, but we do ask everyone who joins us what the price of Bitcoin you think will be on New Year's Eve in US dollars. This is not financial advice to take action, but it's a little montage we sort of gather together, and it's very interesting what everyone sort of thinks where the market's going for curiosity's sake and nothing more.
Obviously, there's no way to tell whatsoever, and anyone that says that they do know is fooling themselves and trying to fool everyone else. I would guess. I mean, it's supposed to be stable store of value. So what's it today? About 9,800. Hopefully, it'll be 9,800 at the end of the year, and it'll be a stable store of value.
Brilliant. Colin, thank you so much for joining us on the Daily Exchange. Really appreciate you, and best of luck with your new updates and the Nano project's an incredible project. Guys, that was very insightful, and obviously you can check out the Nano site itself with Colin. Guys, do subscribe, do follow us, and we'll see you guys later. Yeah.